All right, Melanie, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Underwood. I am a teacher here on Insight Timer, and in real life, I teach cooking. I have a cooking studio here in New York, and I do sound baths also in person and on Insight Timer. So, Violet, thank you for having me. Super excited to have this conversation.
I'm very excited too. Actually, Melanie and I had spoken about this conversation probably a couple of months ago. And I said, we need to have a talk around this topic of, listening to learn and not to defend, because we were seeing other conversations where people were getting very defensive. And I was like, why does it have to be this way? So that's why we're here. But let me move over to Soraya. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. So my given name is Casey, and during the day I'm a licensed mental health therapist, but I am currently my soul is walking as Soraya. I am a intuitive guide, developing mediumship skills. I do oracle card readings, and we're incorporating now music into our healing and meditation. So love doing that. Music is such a big part of my medicine as well. So happy to bring that here now too. So also very happy to be here. I see it every day in my therapy practice. We see it here. We see it on socials. So very happy to be a part of this conversation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Allison, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Oh, you're muted.
I really must learn how to use the tech. Hello. Hi, I'm Alison. I'm in Australia. It's 8 a.m. here, and I can't see the comments. So if there's anything, someone can read them for me. That's because I can't seem to get into the app right now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it's okay. It's fine. Um, I'm relying on everybody else to reflect them to me. Yes, I am a teacher and guide in the um, well-being and meditation space. I've been on Insight Timer for nearly a decade as a teacher, and it's what I do in real life, outside life as well. And my offerings center around personal and spiritual growth. They are compassion centered, embodied, and hopefully help us orientate towards our own light, our own internal wisdom. Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. And I'm slacking off. I had pulled up promotional cards for all of you that I was going to put up as you were introducing yourselves. And I just remembered. So there is Allison's next live. I'm going to put Melanie's up and Alejandro's up, but I'm going to move over and let Nick, I'm not Alejandro. You haven't gone yet. I'm going to let Nicole introduce herself.
I can click a button. Hello, everyone. Good now. I'm Nicole Batiste. I host meditations every day here, pretty much on Insight Timer. My passion is inner mastery. Antara Mastery is the business name because I believe that's the foundation of living your best life. I really, really like to add the science to what I teach, the science to the woo-woo. So I love to really talk brain health and things like that. So I will pass the mic over there and let y'all continue. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And now, Alejandro.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandro, health and wellness coach, meditation teacher, mainly working with men who are incarcerated and people who have been incarcerated and are transitioning back into society with a heart for authenticity and vulnerability, even when conversations like these um, are hard to have, especially in the world that we're living in, when things sometimes seem very personal, very real, very close to home. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited
I'm
to
ex-
explore more about this with you all.
Yeah, and I want us to just have like an open conversation. No one needs to be muted, and we can get started wherever you want. If there's something that anyone wants to share, anything they've experienced, any ways that they've been able to handle these types of conversations. I was saying before we went live that as someone who is married to a person who is completely the opposite of me politically, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I recently listened to this book by Jefferson Fisher, The Next Conversation, and am doing my best to listen rather than defend because, you know, that's my instinct too, is he starts talking and I'm like, you know, and now I'm like, breathe, just breathe. So does anyone have any tips on dealing with things like that? Please, let's just have a conversation. Because this is definitely going to help me as much as anybody else.
Oh, Violet, I feel like you and I have talked about this so much because we had an experience with other people that,
People who we respect a lot too, which was, I think, what makes it even harder, you know?
yeah, and I mean, I think both of us are so open, and it was sort of like for me, it felt like a big slap in the face because I was so surprised. You know, spoke to someone just like as a friend, and I don't even remember what I said to them that really triggered something in them. And they blocked me on all social media, and they, like, anywhere that we were connected, they blocked me, and I didn't know actually until you told me.
I was like, hey, did you notice we're blocked? What
And
did
that
we
was really
do?
hard, and it was super hurtful. But, you know, also, like Alejandro said, I was like, all right, well, yes, I said something, even though I literally don't know what it was that triggered them. And they did write about it publicly, so I do know that to be the case. But I was like, this is definitely more about them than me. And also, I feel like, and I mean, I know most of the people in here, I am just a very direct person. So if you're hurting my feelings, I'm going to say, hey, my feelings are hurt. Can we talk about it? And for me, that's just the easiest thing to do. I mean, even my son yesterday said to me, oh, you've managed to make this about you again.
Mm.
So today I said to him, hey, I just wanted to touch base with what you said yesterday about, I managed to make this about me. And I said, I was telling you a story that I thought was relatable because it happened to me when I was a teen. And so did you feel that way for real? And he said, no, actually, I was just really pissed off at you. And I said, okay, I said, just a piece of advice. It's so much easier to say, I'm pissed off at you right now than make it into something that it really isn't. But he's only 16, so he, is learning those things. But I think it's super helpful when people just say truthfully, directly, in a non-hurting way, this is how I'm feeling.
Mhm. It's one of the things that I teach my therapy clients, and it comes up a lot with people, individuals coming in having issues with communication with their partners, but literally it can help you in any relationship that you have, and it's nonviolent communication because it teaches you to observe without judgment, right? And then look at your feelings, speak your needs, and then speak your requests using those I statements, right? The word you or the person's name, you lose it because you're talking about, okay, this is what I'm like, Melanie's talking about, this is what I'm kind of observing, this is kind of how I feel, these are kind of my needs, or then if I have a request, because it kind of takes all that out of it, it takes all that other stuff out of it.
I just want to point out, I'm not like this with my husband.
I think one thing that's very true and real for all of us is that in theory, we would like to conduct healthy conversations in which we stay connected, because human beings wish to stay connected. That's just primal in us and important, and stay in our hearts. I think we have to be careful not to try to be too perfect on this. We're all human. And what I found really why I do the work I do for myself, first of all, and therefore teach it on to other people, is understanding that when we're triggered, we're different people. In a dysregulated nervous system, we're not the same person as in a regulated system. We're not going to have the same kind of spaciousness and ability to listen without impulsively wanting to dive in. And I think, Melanie mentioning social media, has made it. I'm not on socials at the moment at all, but and I try to have my phone's off most of the time, because for me, all those other voices can put me in a state which I don't need to be in. Your peace is your jewel, right? And there's enough in life to take you out of that. But I think the self-awareness piece is the first piece, really, because we're going to be reactive sometimes, especially as, although it's not personal, things can feel personal, and especially if it's someone close to us. And like you say, Melanie and Violet, when our feelings are hurt because this is someone we just felt safe with and now we don't. So I think the first thing is to actually go in, not to say it's not about me, it's about them perhaps, but it's about both of us. We're both feeling something in this moment. And the only thing I can do, I can't control the other person's temperature, right? But I can do something to regulate my own. And I know that for me, I used to always want to jump in and defend and talk, about it too soon. And one of the things I've had to learn, and I think we all communicate differently is another thing, and listen and differently, is to kind of zip it and benefit from that myself, because sometimes then you make it worse. You're just escalating the drama without meaning to, with good intention. And what I love about the Rumi reference is that what he's talking about is meet in a place where your heart is so online and so peaceful that those other things suddenly fall back somehow. They don't seem to matter so much. So you can say, I choose not to let this matter, and work on that. But the more we also recognize that we should sink into times, no social media, none of that, just be in that field, gaze at that sunset, sip that water like it's the best thing you've ever drunk. I mean, I think this is at the heart of heart focused mindfulness. You move more into a place which is regulated because your heart changes temperature, and then you understand, gosh, you, me, everybody else, we are all spinning on a ball in the sky. We don't know why. And we all feel the same suffering, and we don't really want that for each other. But sometimes we get righteously pissed off with each other or hurt, and all of those things can be true, and we can still find a way to meet in that field. That's one of the miracles of humanity, is that I've had healing in relationships where I thought we will be estranged forever. Like when that happens, that is the piece of gold of life, that we have that capacity and that somehow we are wired for it. And so I have to remind myself sometimes, this feels small at the moment because I'm small, tight, and braced in my physiology. I want to melt back into a bigger picture than they said, I said, it's you, not me. And I am a fan of Jefferson Fisher's work, but he's very focused. I know he says, don't say it to win, but sometimes I followed him for a long time. He is some of his comments, I know if I said them to certain people, would be seen as snark. So
Yes.
I'm so glad you mixed Rumi into it too, because it's really about listening to ourselves in the end, and listening to our heartbeat, and are we regulated or dysregulated before we launch into communication, which is such a huge game changer once you get the words out there, or the silence,
Yes, but I'm going to say this, and I agree with a lot of what you said. However, for me, having a strong reaction like this person did and leaving me out of the picture, because 6, 7 weeks later, this person has still not said anything to me. So
it's very
I
helpful.
personally, you're right. I mean, no matter how much space a person needs, I'm not a person that needs space, but I recognize that other people do need a lot of processing time. I think in life, if you want to be an adult, no matter what, you do need to bring that to the forefront. And
Oh, I agree.
yeah,
I
oh
wasn't
no,
agreeing
I'm
that
not.
someone should ghost.
Oh yeah, I'm
I was
not
just
trying to
speaking
be
for
defensive.
me,
I'm saying that's
not
how I
being,
feel.
yeah,
Like, yeah, like, and
yeah.
that's the way I operate, is from
And
that
I
place.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just am like perplexed when it's a friend, especially, and
Mm.
no matter what, when we try, right, I mean, Violet, I'm struggling because Violet and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
I was just so shocked. I had no idea. I think that's why it caught me off guard. I had no idea that I had hurt this person, triggered them. I'm not even sure what I did to them, to be honest, because again, they have not acknowledged that to me.
Yeah. And I was on the
Yeah,
total
and
opposite,
it's
where
very hurtful.
yeah, it is
Very
hard.
hurtful. I feel you. I've had that happen to me too. It's very hurtful. But sometimes the other person doesn't come back.
Oh, I'm not even worried about that. To be honest, I have
Mm.
such strong boundaries that honestly, if they wanted to come back, I would talk to them. But I know for me, that's not a place that I can operate in. They have a lot of healing to do. And I'm not willing to be a part of that at this juncture.
And I
Yeah, and
think, go ahead, Violet. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, and I think that's also valid. I think, boundaries versus rules, like these are my rules, these are my boundaries. It's really interesting because I will always quote for agreements. I will always quote, not taking things personal, whatever people say and do. It's really about them, not you. Love quoting it until it feels very personal. Until the comment, the conversation, the actions feel like a personal jab attack. And I think that is also valid to feel that way. My feelings are valid. It is in the maturity of the journey how I react. Because Melanie, yes, and I think we're on the same page about what happened because I was also recently blocked by someone who I had worked with and collaborated with, and I don't know why. My reaction a few years back would have been to send a very charged message about WTF, let's talk about it, with language that would say things like, be a grown man about this and tell me what the F is going on. And I think for me personally, the maturity and in my own journey when it comes to communicating, when it comes to conflict or to the perception of conflict, because I still don't know, is to stand back, to take a breath, to pause and say, I do feel a certain way. My feelings are still valid. I feel I feel blindsided. I feel confused. I have questions, but maybe those questions are not for me to know the answer to. If I can sleep well at night, knowing that if I hurt you or when I hurt you, my intention in my words, my actions were not to hurt, I can rest in knowing that I am self-aware enough to just know that maybe there's something to learn from this, but I don't know what that is. And that is okay. I think for me, the not having to know and resting in it's okay not knowing has really helped me not be as reactive because I want to know. I'm in a healing journey. I'm a teacher, I'm a guide, but I'm still healing, I'm still growing. And I want to know, like I want to write about this on my journal. I want to see the progress in a few weeks. I want to see what, and sometimes that's just not, there's not an answer to what happened. There's not. So for me personally, being okay with the not knowing, being okay with, because I want to fix it. I'm a fixer.
Mhm.
Bob the Builder, can we fix it? There I go. I want to fix it. I want to fix. I want to mend the relationship. It's what I do. It's in my DNA. I want to go in and I want to help you glue whatever's. It's what I do every single day. And sometimes there's no fixing. Sometimes there's no mending. Sometimes there's no. And I think for me, learning to be okay with the broken pieces, with the broken relationships that are still part of the journey, it's hard. Um, but it's also okay.
Yeah, it's
That's it.
very hard. And I was going to say, the situation that Melanie and I were talking about, I was a total opposite. I was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't want to know. And I don't know if that's a good attitude either, because that's me being angry and just saying I give up and I just don't care. So I don't necessarily know that that's a good attitude to have either. But, you know, as you have pointed out, also, if the other person is not willing to be an adult, what do? You can't have the conversation by yourself.
And I also truthfully am going to own my shit. I say aggressive, in your face things all the time. It's part of my personality. So if I had done something that honestly hurt this person, I would be more than happy to say, I'm sorry, I didn't know I hurt you. But I'm not afforded that opportunity.
Yeah. And I'm the total opposite of you, Melanie. I try not to. I mean, there's times I should say what's on my mind and I don't. So I'm like, what did I do? I've not even said anything, It's like I don't get it. I think I was guilty by association. No, I'm kidding. I
think
think
you were.
I know, right? I mean, I don't know, but I was angry and I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't even want to know.
I think for um lately this week, let's just talk about, it's Thursday today. The
Yeah.
past 4 days, I don't know how many times I've had to, for me, and not to, I'm gonna make this semi-political to jump to the point. Um, but this past 4 days, I've had to remind people that I was born a US citizen from the island, from Puerto Rico, way too many times, right? Um, and the 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 comment of go back to where you come from has felt really personal. And in my mind, I've I've had to explore, how do I respond if I choose to respond to this? How do I respond to this from a place of understanding that people are doing the best they can with what they have, from a place of compassion, and not from a place of defensiveness, not from a place of I am going to defend myself and I'm going to read you to filth. And Because the library is truly open on today. Gay references, people, sorry. Um, and my mom, in her infinite motherly wisdom, told me, but does it matter? I was like, what do you mean, does it matter? I am so proud of who I am because you taught me to be extremely proud of the root. She's like, yeah, but does it matter? Does it matter if someone tells you go back to where you come from? Does it matter if someone calls you a wetback, although you're not, you're not an illegal immigrant? Or does it matter if, does it matter? And in my mind, I want to tell her, absolutely, it matters. This is justice. These are the values of the family. This is what you raised me. This is taking a stand for what is right and what is, but does it matter? Will your response change the world if you respond in anger, or will it fuel an argument online, in person, on the phone? So to your point in sometimes not even responding, and I know it sounds dismissive, because we're trying to create this beautiful containers of love and hope, and that is what we're constantly trying to do. But does it matter? What if you perceive me as an illegal immigrant, or what if you perceive me as someone who is less than you because I am brown or queer? Or in that moment, do I have to change your perspective and say, hey, hi, I'm here? Is it more about the climate? Is it more about my feelings? So there's a lot that this week I find myself again. I really thought I was over the conversation about living in a border town, and in this climate. I thought we were fine, or like come back to some sort of normalcy, and then suddenly there's this resurgence again, thanks to Bad Bunny, but that's okay. And now I find myself again exploring, do I have to defend myself? Or can I be a duck and let it just roll out, roll off? So, and I think that's also, I think sometimes we're so used to, as someone who loves social justice and not only post it online, but go to the marches and vote and all of these things that we do, being very vocal about a lot of things, sometimes it's okay just to shut up and let it be. Sometimes I've had to learn that sometimes it's okay in anything, even in personal relationships, because if I'm emotionally charged and I'm going to respond with emotionally charged words that I know I am very much capable of, it's not going to help. It's going to crack the container of hope and trust, that maybe I have created between people and myself. So yeah, sometimes for me, it's just okay to just shut up and not say anything, and ask myself, is this worth the debate or the argument?
It's hard. Christine asks, is it defensive though if you're correcting their ignorance?
Well, they are all, you're not going to correct their ignorance in that moment because they're in an emotionally charged state as it is. And they're not going to be able to receive anything because they're not in the right part of their brain. What I think about as I'm listening to Alejandro is we are responsible for the energy that we put out in the world, right? And that affects the entire collective. So the best way to counter their negativity is to continue with your positivity. And in that moment, nothing is going to change. It is not worth your wasting your energy on that situation. So the best way to handle that is to do the big things like Alejandro was talking about, is the marches and all of that. Like that moment, you're not going to change their mind. You're not going to change their perspective. The way you'll feed into their perspective by reacting in the way they expect you to react. So if anything, that quietness may give them pause, you would hope. But if not, it's not really about them. It's about the collective. And us here, we are helping to change the collective, even though we can't fully see it all the way yet. But the energy that we put into each other and ourselves is helping change that. We're raising that. And reacting to someone who doesn't know any better at that moment and is just acting out of ignorance and fear, because that's all that is. It doesn't help anything, doesn't change anything. So, and I know she was talking to you, Alejandro, so apologies for stepping in.
No, 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 no. It's my mom. She's like, you talk a lot about me. I said, and what? My mom always reminds me of, to your point, Nicole, of the power of prayer, the power of the stillness, the work that happens in the quiet place. When I feel charged, when I feel attacked, when I feel betrayed, when I feel whatever it is that I am allowed and to feel, it's not so much about what happens right then and there. It's about what happens in the quiet place, about that energy, about the shifting of the energy. I choose. It's in the choosing of, I choose. Yes, so and so said this or did this, but I choose here and now in the quiet place. I choose to transform that energy, and we go into our meta practice. We go into sending that loving kindness as a practice, because sometimes I have to practice it even if I don't feel it. And my mom always reminds me, Alex, it's in the choosing. Alejandro, is in the choosing. What are you choosing to do with your energy? You can engage in the argument, and it's valid. And yes, and there is an aspect of maybe education in that argument. But is it is actually positive communication? Or are we just throwing words back and forth? And I think, to your point, Nicole, what energy are we putting into the world? Sometimes we forget that we are energy, that this is just a vessel, that uh, when we stepped outside of this realm of the physical, there's this spiritual aspect and the woo woo to who we are. And I love the woo woo. But let us not forget that there is power in the quiet space, that there is power in the shifting of someone cuts me off while driving and I have a reaction, but there is power in the shifting. You know what? Maybe they're in a hurry. Maybe there's an emergency. I bless them. I speak life over them. May they be safe. And in that process of practicing, things shift. Not only am I rewiring my mind, but I'm also shifting the atmosphere. And there is power in that. There is power. And I know for me, sometimes in the car or even in my quiet space, I say it out loud. So I can tell myself, this is what we're doing. I am feeling a certain way, but the attitude we are choosing to have about it is this. So,
Yeah, I
so
had a
yeah.
conversation with a coworker the other day similar to that. And I was talking about choosing his response and I was like, it's not for them, it's for you. Because if you don't shift your attitude in that moment, your whole day is gonna, you've experienced it. You mad about something with someone and then the next thing pisses you off and then the next thing and the next thing because you're already in that space and you're just so I'm like, even though it supports the collective to change that shift, it also like really, if you don't want to have a poor day, then it would serve you well to change your perspective on what you just encountered. So I, to your point with that as well.
Yeah, I like what CG said, and praying for yourself and for others is energy. The vast majority of people understand energy. Yeah, and it's sometimes when I'm out, I'm always reciting the metta prayer in my mind to people, especially when I see that they're not in a good mood.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, CG, about the energy. And I love the points that you were all saying about changing your energy. And I sometimes find it's easier for me to do that with strangers than it is with people I'm close to. So that's where my question is. What like in the situation that Melanie and I were in, what do
Mm-hmm.
you do when it's someone that you are close to, did not expect it from, like we're all in a spiritual community, so we kind of think like we should be up here. How do you handle situations like that? That's my question to all of you.
You remind yourself that they're just as human as all the strangers. They get triggered just as much as anyone else. Not everybody knows how to handle their triggers. Um, and when you're triggered, you're in a that's your lower self, not lower self, that's your younger self that was not yet healed. So you're not in the adult brain, right? They like I was learning and Soraya could probably speak to this, just learning about psychology when you encounter a situation that's similar to one that you experienced at a younger age and you didn't get the full support and help that you did at that age, you're going to respond as if you were still at that age the next time you have an experience like that. And so if you don't have support, then you don't know fully how to handle it in a way that you, because y'all like be an adult. Well, they don't really know what that experience is just yet because they didn't get that you know, that help at that with that particular incident. But it's just honestly like even if it's someone that you love, they are in a protective mode. So that's what it sounds like she or he went into protective mode and does not know necessarily how to handle it. And if it's anything like I've experienced where I felt bad about something and then I get to a point where like I know I should have known better and then I'm kind of don't want to like come back and be like I feel stupid right now. So she could be going through that too. Like, oh shoot, I kind of overreacted. But I would just say if you know that you are being kind, you can't control how other people are going to respond. And if they're willing to have that conversation, great. If they're not, just keep moving on, keep sending them love. At some point, and releasing that need to know, like Alejandro was talking about, releasing that need to know usually will help bring them back, because you're not strangling this energy like, tell me what's going on. Like, so it kind of releases the energy and opens up the door for it to the potential to have that conversation, but also just releases you from that what the heck, because that's power over you, right? Like if you're dwelling on that, that's them having power over you even without them trying.
But
So
it's also about self-reflection for me,
yeah, that too.
because I can be polarizing. You know, I've been teaching for 30 years, and
Mm-hmm.
part of my teaching strategy is always to push buttons a little bit, because I
Mm-hmm.
want people to think,
Mm-hmm.
and I really do want people to think. I mean, I think you have to be in one of my classes to sort of experience it, but I know that I really make an impact on people because I hear it all the time. So, because I am like that, I'm also reflective about who I am. And so
Sure.
for me, like I don't feel like I'm holding on. I was hurt for sure, but my question to myself was, what did I do? Because I don't want to do it again. That's the bottom line for me. Like, you know, if and I'm everybody knows that I'm a Scorpio. I am fiery. I don't care if I'm water. I have a lot of fire. So, so yeah, I was like, damn, how can I grow from this experience? And here we are, Violet.
Yeah. I get that, but can you do that when you were encountering different beings? Because not everybody would have reacted that way, you know? So it's just, I don't know how, still, I definitely, personal reflection for sure. But if you don't have an answer from the person it hurt, then you can't really,
Oh, 100%. That's just it. That's why I feel like it's hard to reflect.
yeah.
I actually don't know. But I will say this because they wrote about it publicly. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't say the specific incident, but
Mm-hmm.
it was enough to know
Mm-hmm.
that just as you've said, and that's why I said earlier, it's often not about you.
Yeah.
It's about where they're coming from with when you're triggered. And
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely a wound that they had as a
Mm-hmm.
child.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about that this was a wound that they had from when they were a kid, and that I triggered something related to that. And just
Mm-hmm.
as you said, that's hard, you know, for someone who's experiencing that, whether it's me, them, any of us, to sort of address until there's a little healing that occurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I can relate to, because of the population I work with for the most part in incarcerated spaces between what I called within the four walls.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of work that and energy that I bring to that environment, it's very different from when I'm working one-on-one in the free world.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Soraya could probably talk about this when we enter when I'm entering into an experience where it's this beautiful container of almost reparenting in a therapeutic little blah can speak today, in a very therapeutic environment. um I have to, it's almost like I have to remind myself when I come out of the four walls, when I go out of the institutions and the prisons and the detention centers, um that the conversations sound different. For me, I know in the beginning when I started doing that work, I would come into a conversation with a friend with the same energy, kind of confrontational, very, very much. Let's be real about it. I don't have time to waste.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say it again. My mom had to call me out on it. She's like, "Yo, you're not at work. Like you're not at work. This is your best friend from high school. The energy needs to shift." So for me, as someone who is a real fire, you're fire too, Melanie. You're fire too. You're fire too. um but as an Aries, you know, someone that is very passionate, very, very much in the reforging, sort of melting the metal type of energy to recreate something new, something different. I've had to, for me, for Alejandro, I've had to learn to understand my energy and how do I bring that fire into different environments, because sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes, especially in the work I do, sometimes it's like, stop the BS. Why are we wasting time? Like, stop. Especially when we're talking about learning victim empathy and all of these things. Just stop. What is the excuse? And I've had to remind myself that I cannot bring that energy maybe with someone in a different situation. Someone, Melanie, like someone that might ghost us or um out of nowhere. Because my first response is like, cut the BS. We're a grown ass man. Like what's meet me outside. Don't forget that my certificate don't mean that I didn't grow up in the ghetto as a short Hispanic kid. Let's like, what up? Meet me outside. Just kidding, people. Just breathe. It's okay, breathe. But that's for me, that's part of my journey, right? So that attitude sometimes that energy sometimes is in the work I do. It's very much needed. I'm not saying that I tell clients meet me outside. We can't go outside. We're pretty much locked in a room. Um, but sometimes in after we create that beautiful space where there's nurturing and it's almost like even though I'm probably the youngest in the room, sometimes I become this father figure in both the correcting but also the nurturing. Um, it I have to remind myself that the energy and the fire sometimes needs to be put down a little bit. Like any gas stove, you know how you have high and low. Sometimes you got to turn it off and ignore it. But meet me outside, Nicole. Just kidding. Just kidding.
For sure. I need to hop. I have a client. So this has been a wonderful conversation. I thank you all for what you do and who you are in this world. And thank you all who joined. And thank you, Violet, so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
joining us.
welcome.
And
Thank
Kevin, you slipped in quietly. Do you want to introduce
Yes.
yourself?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Violet, Nicole, everyone who's here. So yeah, here we are. I'm really happy to be here once again on in the beautiful platform of AYG, Violet, that you so wonderfully create. And the discussion is a very valid one. It's a very beautiful one today. So much wisdom and so many beautiful points that have been shared. And in reflection of what I do, I offer, for those who don't know, I offer meditation sessions, live meditation sessions here on Insight Timer, sometimes 2-3 times a week. I've been traveling on a very, very big trip at the moment, and so I haven't been around as I usually am, but really happy to be here today. And I think the important thing that I have discovered and continue to discover in life and in living, and in terms of interactions and all of the sort of thread of what is happening and coming through everyone's expression today, is in my own from reflection of myself, having that sense of who I really am, not so much like me wanting to have a certain kind of experience. That's certainly part of it and certainly valid. But what I'm indicating is that I find these are all opportunities to reflect on who do I know myself to be? Who do I think I am? Who do I know myself to be? And this, for me, is the central key, the central focus of my life, in fact. And through meditation, I find that there's an opportunity to dig that, to unfold that, to really become more and more aware of that essence that I truly am, that you truly are, that everyone actually is. And for me, somehow, there's always been a very strong resonance, you could say, with this thought or with this practice. So I do find that in terms of interactions, we may feel very sensitive and feel very, sometimes situations come up that we feel, oh, this is a personal thing. And I have I have friends who often say to me, Kevin, it's not personal. It's not personal. and I really get that. I really understand that we're all dealing with whatever it is that we're dealing with, and then we interact together, and then the combination of the chemical energy, or the alchemy, or you could say, of what happens when we come together, that creates whatever it creates. But I think the important thing is to somehow have a sense of anchoring, self-grounding in something that is actually beyond all of the interactions. So that field that Rumi refers to very beautifully is a field that actually is always available to us. And the more we create or cultivate a familiarity with that, the more we go walking in the garden of our own being, that it becomes more present and more relevant. And I think also reacting, like Alejandro, where you're talking about sort of, I was hearing shifting gears between, say, your work environment and your personal environment and so on, to somehow, and then also there was a lot of discussion. Alejandro, you also brought about the point about pausing, and I thought that was so beautiful and so important, that if we can just somehow just come back to that place of going, of sort of anchoring ourselves in that place of pause, and then moving from there, acting, not reacting so much. And we can have all the wonderful intentions in the world, but as Melanie, you had said something somewhere really brilliantly, something about intention, and please correct me on this, I'm not going to get this probably right, but intention and impact, like intention does not outweigh impact or something like that. So it's really important to have that we can have the beautiful intention, but also to have that, I feel, that sensitivity to know that even if I have great intentions, that the impact may have a different result. And of course, there's only so much we can do. So we can certainly do our best and certainly move forward with all of this, but to have that openness and receptivity to ourselves, to each other, and to know that in a certain way, we can't ever really know another person fully, and we certainly can't change anybody. It's hard enough to change ourselves. So all these thoughts really just come back to that same point of meeting ourselves, in fact, in that place that is peaceful, that is beyond all of this, and still interacting, not giving up, not canceling anything, but just somehow having that as the background, that background space, bringing it more into the forefront of our existence and our time on this planet, perhaps can be really helpful. And in my own case, it seems there are many examples that I work with, and it definitely makes a difference. So thank you so much for creating this environment, Violet, for everyone to express and to have this opportunity.
Absolutely.
I want to say something to Logan. Hi, Logan. Logan shares that he has just come back home after serving 7 years in the system, in the judicial system, in prison. And yes, Logan, it is the rules of, even for me as someone who goes back in to work and journey with people who are within the four walls, the rules are different. And yes, I agree with you that our judicial system or correctional system is made to traumatize already traumatized people, which is why we do what we do with Prison Yoga Project, with other organizations, Humans of San Quentin, because we understand that, or I understand that crime is a trauma response, that it is the reaction to unhealed wounds that have been festering. So in the healing journey and in the growing journey, we pause. We pause. And I know I was joking with Nicole about, meet me outside. But that is sometimes, honestly, in my personal relationships, I was just, before we went live, I was just telling some of the teachers that were here that I had to cut ties in my personal life, in a relationship, because it was the difference of opinion was too much. And I got to a point that I was like, meet me outside about it then. Not to fight, but at that level of energy, like emotional energy. And it was personal. It felt very personal for me. Some of the comments, some of the jokes, it's like, you're talking to a brown man in America. Like, I'm a Hispanic guy. It's not funny. The joke is not funny. The comment is not funny. So the pause. I had to learn in this relationship to pause a lot of times and to understand that people are doing the best they can with what they have. Not to justify injustice, racism, any of it, but to understand that that's just where you're at. And that doesn't make them less than I am. It doesn't make me better than because I understand a concept differently. I've had to learn and unlearn a lot of things. The same way we're all journeying together. And for me, that is when it comes to situations like Melanie was explaining, that has also happened to me. The ghosting, the wanting to know, the disrespect. When people disrespect us, that for me is it's one of my biggest triggers. When I feel disrespected, like what? For what? What did I do to you? I thought we were friends. I thought we were cool. And now suddenly you're blocking me, you're ignoring me. Excuse me. What are we in middle school? All of those things, the pause. That you know what? It's okay. I feel this way. And I can. And it's valid that I feel this way. But be still my heart and know. This too shall pass. It's okay. Just breathe. Just breathe. And having to practice. We call mindfulness practices because they are practice. Sometimes they become second nature. They become part of who we are. But it's still a practice. We're human. We're human. And that's valid.
Also, I think it can often be about boundaries, right? Like what you were saying, and what one of us finds acceptable, another doesn't. And no matter what, I've had to terminate friendships because I felt like this isn't working for me and no investment is going to change what's happening. And this is a boundary, and I just cannot allow this anymore. And just like you said, we're all in these different spaces, and we all do come from whatever background we came from that made us who we are today. And that happens too. Can I just say a shout out to Violet's sweater that Caitlin, who is a teacher on Insight Timer, crocheted, and how gorgeous it is.
Thank you. Yes, Caitlin's in the chat right now, and I want her to see me wearing her beautiful crochet sweater. And yes, people, I know it blends with my Afghan, and it wasn't planned. I had the Afghan for years. Well, Alejandra, I love what you said about the pause. That's the one I've been working on the most because, always in the past, my initial reaction was just to get angry and just not listen. And now I really try hard to do that pause and take a deep breath. And I just see 108 people have joined. And, to take that deep breath and just to listen, because I know that I was guilty of being one of those people I was not listening. I was ready to defend myself. So whatever you were saying didn't matter because I'm not hearing you. So it's a lot of work and it's great advice.
I mean,
And I
one of
think-
the things I write about, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say this really quickly, is how can you have a conversation when you aren't being heard?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, did you hear the cat? The cat chimed in on that one. She's like, "Do you hear me?" Yeah, I think everybody has made so many good points tonight, which is why I've been quiet a lot, because what do you need to add to, to a lot of the things that have been said? But everybody's mentioned this in some form or another, and everybody's on their own path and they're on their own journey. And what I have to remember, when I encounter people, is that all I can do is be who I am now. And I finally am getting to that place where I fully love myself. I fully embrace myself. I'm standing in my authenticity. And if you don't like it, I don't care anymore. But I also understand that everybody isn't there. Everybody doesn't have that awareness. There are a lot of people that still haven't done their work, that don't have any self-awareness, or still living in this fear-based place, right? And they're scared. You know, they're scared to look at their own shadow, to come to the light. And I just have to remind myself that, like everyone has said, is taking that pause. I also quote the four agreements a lot. You know, it's not personal. It really doesn't have anything to do with me unless I've physically done something to them or said something. And all I can do is stand here and hold the light. And I hope that it shines on them and they feel its warmth and they feel its love that makes them curious enough to take one scary step forward to try to work their way towards it and out of that fear-based place.
One of the things I constantly remind myself is that I have not always been where I am at today.
Mhm.
At what point, in my life, I too was scared. At some point in my life, I was not taking the necessary steps to heal. And at points in my life, I hurt people. I'll say it again. She's probably listening. My mom constantly reminds me. Sorry, spiritual leader and mother constantly reminds me not to forget where I come from. Not only culturally, not only in society stat, not only none of that, but where I come from, where I have been in my own journey. My timeline has not been this beautiful line, and I have hurt people purposefully and by accident, just because I was a walking wounded human. So when I encounter people who I perceive want to hurt me, I remind myself, not only are they doing the best they can with what they have, but I haven't been a saint. I messed up some relationships because I was also hurting. And sometimes in the journey, we don't like reminding ourselves where we come from because it is shameful, because we regret those past actions. And that's okay. I tell my guys all the time, eventually the shame turns to regret, the regret turns into change and action. But sometimes we have to live with the regret of understanding that some of our actions truly hurt people. So when I see the person who I perceive wants to hurt me, it's a mirror of where I've been, not to keep myself in shame and keep myself down, but to understand that they too are hurting like I was hurting. Just because I've healed does not mean I don't understand the pain they're going through. So, and yes, Carla, the lady is a powerhouse, Mother Reverend. Um, but yes, I when I encounter people in my personal life, not so much in my professional life, but in my personal life, who I come into conflict with, and maybe I perceive that what they're saying is wanting to harm me. I remember that at some point I did the same thing. I remember that at some point I used the words because I was hurting and I wanted to be heard. It wasn't truly about hurting the person I say I loved. It was about wanting to be heard. Like, hey, I'm here, listen to me. So I'm going to get your attention in whatever way I can. So you are this and you are that, and you've done this and you've been here. And it's not to justify understanding these things. It's not to justify harm, but it's to understand that we're all in a journey. And if we want to hold space and create beautiful containers for healing and growth, it's one of the things we have to do. We have to understand that we're all in a journey, and that we're not today where we've been before. Again, not to keep us in shame and to keep us down, but to understand We're more alike than we're different. And just because we've healed doesn't mean that we don't have the scars of the wounds that we've healed. The scars remain. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Sometimes we want to use that, erase your scar gel, emotional gel for it might work, it might not. But anyways, I've talked a lot. I'm gonna mute myself.
One of the what you're speaking to, our humanity, is something that, especially if we are doing our own work and growing, spiritual growth, personal growth, always hold on to that, because our humanity isn't a curse. It's not something we're trying to avoid or move away from. I know that a lot of us grow up feeling ashamed of things that are very human, like having feelings, like the fact that we have an inner child and wounded parts, right? Like the fact that we will hurt each other, and sometimes I think what happens with shame is it can make you feel, I need to make this person, I need to be righteous. I need to feel that I'm better than this person, or I'm doing more work than them, or they're down here and I'm up here. I need to be something other than human. And it's a beautiful thing that we're human, because it's also where we find connection. So when I'm listening to Alejandro and everybody, what I feel is connection to everything everyone's saying, everything about your feelings, what you've experienced, the shock of when I was ghosted by a dear friend, someone I thought was a dear friend at the beginning of this year. I'll never hear from that person again. The journey I went through eventually was, she is taking more space in my head than I'm obviously taking in hers. I've got to let this go for my own. It's becoming something that I'm sure she doesn't even know how much it's torturing me, And what I learned about why I do my work is so self-compassion and compassion-centered and embodied, right? Because two things. One, you get in your head, you move out of this body place, you can't take the pause, you can't be aware, and you can't, it's all suddenly personal. And then you develop more drama, more narrative, more story and beliefs, and you attach to them and they become the goal. But the second, so the embodiment part and finding my body again, I wasn't taught this. It is something that so many of us aren't taught. And the other thing, no one ever talked to me about being kind to myself, welcoming all my feelings, being allowed to have feelings, kind of the opposite, really. Certain feelings certainly were completely banned in my household. So shame comes up when I feel. And what I recognized when I was younger, I was very reactive sometimes, or very mute, either one or the other, like, total collapse or total, so much energy. I got to get it all out now, everything. So one person could say, pass the salt, and everything that had ever upset me, that poor person, they're going to get it, right? And I got frightened by these reactions, both of them. They did. I wasn't in control. I felt overpowered. And I think the shame piece and healing shame is it to be okay, that deep okayness, to go to that unwounded part and say, whatever I'm feeling it. If I'm feeling shock because someone's ghosted me, I'm allowed to feel that shock, but I don't want to get stuck there, especially as I can't change that other person. And I kept getting stuck, and I could ruminate on one thing like a cow chewing the cud with their 7 stomachs or whatever they have, right? It got nobody anywhere. Me, the energy of the people I was with, because when you're dwelling on something, my daughter, my husband, the people who need my presence, they're not getting it. I'm not getting joy because I'm still in this other place that's changing my physiology, and I'm not feeling good. And that's what energy is. It's a chemistry, like in the secular sense, in a spiritual sense. It is something that moves and changes. And I think compassion is an incredible energy mover, because compassion isn't pity, poor me. Compassion isn't, I don't believe things, I don't have values. Compassion is, I recognize my humanity is everybody's. The things I'm experiencing, they're experiencing, and vice versa. And as we've all said, we're at different stages of how we are learning to stay with that and get the learning that is beneficial from that, but and healing what we're healing. And that is always going to be the path. That's never going to end. But in the midst of it, if you pay attention, and particular to when, for me, when I'm triggered and I'm thinking, like you said, Alessandro, so many regrets, so many things I'd do differently. Even a conversation I may have had a few weeks ago, I could have done differently. I say, wait, Alison, stop. You can't change what happened. You're a good person at your heart. You didn't intend anything. You're not trying to be perfect anymore. There was a big part of my journey that was plagued by perfectionism. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. Take those breaths. Take the love and compassion of spirit, the bigger love. And then from that place, the things that seemed to matter so much, then we're back in Rumi's field, where he says that basically you're in a place where your soul is not able anymore to hear those things or hear them so loudly. That is a real place we're invited into, we can invite ourselves into. And I always use the channel of embodiment and compassion. When I notice I'm up here going, I'm and going too much there, I listen to my body and it's going, I know that's not going to be good for me or anyone else in my environment. And really learning to be nice to myself has been a game changer. It's not self-indulgent. It's changed everyone's lives around me. Just learning to be kind to myself, learning to let myself feel what I feel, but not stay in a place where that becomes some kind of boundary that isn't healthy. And just as Melanie says, you know, boundaries are so healthy. And I think compassionate, cheerful boundaries that respect my energy, other people's energy. That's another thing I've had to learn. It's not a fence. It's a way of organizing, architecting the energy so that I'm accountable for my energy and I'm noticing what's happening in my body before I move in. That's a boundary I can use. But that also is, who do I engage with and in what way? What do I choose to do today? Whose spaces am I with, people who gossip, or, you know, where I put my energy? Those are all boundaries. And my biggest boundary is almost, how much am I going to think about this? Because I was brought up to be a very head-based person, and I think we all, you know, are very much in that world. So to come back into my body is a grace that is available for me. But it's the human part, and it's the antidote to shame. And as a great compassion focused coach, founding compassion focused mindfulness, Chris Shermer, and he says, you know, inside everybody is a voice just saying, I want love. I want love. Am I worthy of love? Am I lovable? And a great practice to do is go to the supermarket, go to the coffee shop, go wherever, go through your day looking at everybody, not with suspicion and judgment, not with that, am I safe, primal amygdala, but with, they want to be loved. They may be shouting at their kids. They may be looking, not smiling. You know, it's not about me. It's something going on with them that wants to be loved. And it really softens the energy. Everything softens when from that place. So I try to practice that a lot and get humble, you know. And we move in and out, don't we? We move in and out, but the awareness journey is that we don't fight ourselves over when we're not. It's not about performing something or getting a prize when you reach the pearly gates, in my view. Anyway, I hope not, because I won't win it. But it's about learning in this journey and taking the path and learning from what happens inside and outside. Yeah, and not being too hard on ourselves, I guess, is big for me.
And wasn't it Rumi that said, the wound is the place where the light enters you? It
Something
when
about through the cracks. It's when through the cracks the light enters.
So, yes, it something like that, something to that effect. So I like to be reminded that when I feel wounded, which again, let us not neglect our humanity. When I feel wounded, may the light enter through that feeling, through that wound. Not only to, because I in my brain, my very analytical brain wants to understand right away, okay, so why do I feel wounded? What was the trigger? And I've had to learn to allow myself to feel, instead of understand. Sometimes I don't have to understand right away. I can feel and I can sit, as painful as it might be. I can nurture the wound, not just to heal it as fast as I can, but to understand that yes, I this hurts. This hurts. And in that process, allowing the light and the compassion and the humanity to show up. Um, and the healing happens as it progresses. But yeah, the wound, the cracks is the place where the light enters, comes in through. So may we learn to, when we're in conflict or when we perceive conflict and we feel wounded, to not only want to fix the wound, but to allow the light to come through.
And I think Meister Eckhart says something like, there is a place in your soul that is not wounded, like the unwounded soul, and a presence. I mean, I come to life through a spiritual framework, but just having any kind of presence that is inside of you, a compassionate friend presence that is able to be there to comfort the wound. When we're babies, we're not told it's wrong to feel, to cry, to have needs. Well, we might be, but the idea is you shouldn't be. And that soothing and that love and that care and that it's okay to feel this and there's comfort is something we can offer ourselves. And it's often a misstep. I think that is very common, what you were talking about, Alessandro, jumping out of our bodies and our feelings to get to the solution. And it's that it can feel uncomfortable, I think. Well, it did for me, especially at first. I was avoiding my body and my feelings because that's what I was trained in as a child. So there was a fear about what will happen if I feel, and will I be wrong? Will I be shameful? And when you bring in the idea, this unwounded part, or this God part, or this compassion element, these beautiful presences that are real and exist, in whatever form you feel them or know them, then that softening happens. Mind softens right into the head and doesn't need to fight and defend so much anymore. And then you can take a considered view of how to approach genuine things where we do need to step in, no doubt. It's a kind of stepping back from the reaction to step in with a really good communication, to invest in how am I going to communicate this, basically, rather than blah, 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 because I'm in reactivity. Maybe.
I was
This has
over
been an
here
amazing.
chuckling
Oh, go ahead.
because
Go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
over here chuckling when Alejandro was talking because I'm like, I literally say that and I still have to say that to myself. And I'm like, I love you. Shut up. I can't think this out. I have to feel this out.
I was going to say, I can't believe it's already an hour and 15 minutes that we're here. Like we could have this conversation for hours. And I think at some point we're going to have a part two. But in the interest of time, I'm going to, if anyone has any last minute thoughts they want to share before we get to sharing what the teachers have coming up, please take the opportunity now because I love everything everyone has had to say. All right, I'm going to let you go around. I'm going to go around. I'm going to put your cards up. Kevin does not have any upcoming lives yet. Kevin is traveling. But as the teachers, as we close out, I'd like you to share what you've got going on or any courses, anything that you want to share. And Sarai, I'll start with you.
Okay, so my next live is not going to be until Wednesday. So I do 2 lives a week, one on Wednesday and one on Saturday. But this Saturday is my birthday. So
Yay.
yay. So I'll be in DC. I'm going to an Italian Heritage Festival and then a drag show. So we're going to have some fun.
Awesome.
So next Wednesday, every Wednesday I do Soul Fire gatherings. Those are at 7:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They've really evolved. It started as just oracle card readings, and now it really is ceremony. We start and open with with a meditation from Sacred Medicine deck and do the ceremony. And then we do Oracle card and channeled messages. And then my second live, which will return the following Saturday, is a soul song series. And that's where we take 2 songs. I have a theme every time. I take 2 songs, we listen to it for the first time and just kind of see where it lands. And then we deep dive on the lyrics and what it really means behind the lyrics. Then we do a guided meditation around those themes to address what these songs are kind of bringing up. And then at the end, we listen to them again after the whole thing to see where they land, because a lot of times it's very different. Because between the lyrics, between music's notes, chords, vibrations, all the things, music carries so many messages and codes. So just started that. This will only be our 3rd one, but it's been going great. So I love it. Looking forward to being back to it.
Excellent. All right, Melanie.
Well, I just want to say happy birthday. It's Soraya, right? Because my friend is Soraya, so I'm really tempted to do that. And also John's birthday. John is in the audience. I know his birthday is Sunday, so happy birthday to him.
Yeah.
And I am going to be here October 10th for a sound journey at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I don't have any cooking live scheduled because I have been really insane with my work schedule. But I'm going to throw this out there that I am going to again do this December what I did last year, which is the 12 days of cookies. So
Mm.
I'm going to do 12 consecutive
Ooh.
days of mindful baking, and I'm going to make a different cookie every day. So follow me to get those updates because it's going to be super, super fun, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And the card is up for her next live. So if you click on that, you can easily find out how to follow her as well. All right, Allison.
Yum, I'm so up for the cookies, so up. If it's at my time of day, I love baking. It's my favorite meditation. I just want to say it's been lovely to meet all you beautiful people. Soraya, Casey and I have been friends for a long time and are very close. It's so beautiful to meet you, Alessandra and Melanie and Kevin. Really grateful to see you. And thank you, Violet. I know that we've been talking for a long time. And thank you for everyone who's coming. So I did a number of different things, but my next live is tomorrow. And I've just launched a poem and a reflection a day poetry course. I have a lovely group that we've been meeting regularly for a couple of years. I read poetry and we have soulful, heartful reflections on those. I got permission from lovely poets, Donna Ashworth, Julian Ferrybacker, Jeff Foster, Mark Nepo, some great people who kindly gave permission for me to create that course. And we'll be reading together. I've got a couple of those, each for European and other times, more USA and Canada times coming up. In my library here, because I've been a teacher here for a long time, I do have, if it interests you, a lot of content regarding for self-compassion, healing. I have multiple sclerosis. I've been on a big chronic illness healing journey, spiritual, emotional, physical healing, and self-compassion. So if you want to have a look, and I have some courses, other courses, but one that may be relevant to what we've spoken about, or a couple. One's called, well, all of them actually, but there's one called 7 Days of Living in the Light, which is about just developing those light practices. Another one called Meet Yourself, Positive Pathways for Self-Connection, and another one called Discover Heartfulness. And they all bring up areas we've touched on here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I'm going to go over to Kevin.
Thank you, Violet. Thank you so much. Yes, I've been traveling. I don't have anything scheduled at the moment, but really looking forward to getting back into my schedule as soon as I can. And just to really appreciate this wonderful topic today of self-reflection, of patience, of really that pause that really is so important, to have that sense of expansiveness and expansion. And I always link the word perception with perspective, because somehow when the perspective is somehow enhanced, whatever that may be for anyone in any given situation, then with the perspective, the perception enhances, and vice versa. As the perception enhances, so the perspective of the situation, and very importantly of oneself, is there. And in that perspective, if one can truly just engage and celebrate the beauty of that space of love, of the being that resides within, and to then see, as it's so beautifully been expressed today in each one, that yes, everyone really does want to be loved, to be appreciated, and to be heard. And certainly a beautiful space here on Insight Timer certainly brings all of that to the forefront. So thank you once again, Violet. Thank you, everyone, and all whoever's here. Truly grateful to each and every one for this moment and for each and every moment. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining. And Alejandro,
Yeah, it's been great. Time flew by. Thank you.
right?
Thank you, all of you, for sharing space with me. We did this back in April, but this week I'm gonna start a week of affirmations. So I'll be here every day, starting on Sunday at 8:45 a.m. my time, which is mountain time. But it's a week of joining in and creating a beautiful space to explore new affirmations like, I am rooted even as I change. I am allowed to let go. I am nurtured by or by stillness. I'm sorry. I am becoming. And on Sunday, we'll create intentions, and hopefully you can all join us. And it's short sessions. There's not a lot of teaching in the process. It's a lot of just coming in, settling in, and practicing I am affirmations and exploring whatever those are the entire week. So Sunday all the way through Friday. So yeah, hope to see you all there.
Awesome. And as for me, let's see, now I've got one next week around this time with the tarot and oracle card readers, and we're going to be celebrating all their birthdays because 3 or 4 of you, I think, were born in October, like right around the same time. So that's going to be fun.